Producing and releasing music. So like I said, I started on FL Studio, and then I spent maybe like a week there, moved into Reason, and I went on Reason for 3 years, and I could never get my master to sound loud. It was always coming out at like -6, and not knowing anything really, it was like, oh, well, the DAW is the problem. Like, it's not me, it's the program. And then I was like, okay, well, I'll learn Ableton. Spent 3 weeks on Ableton and put out my first song. Like, it was that quick. My mind just like worked with Ableton, and I could start to understand that if you have the idea, you can create it and get it into software, as opposed to Reason was like, okay, well, that sounds cool. Like, we'll just use that and work on something else afterwards. But it was when I switched to Ableton that complemented my way of thinking, that helped me get out and start producing better stuff. Producing with friends or watching others really helped understand other things that I could never figure out. Like, a lot of the music tips, or just in producing things that I thought were difficult, became so simple when I saw somebody else do it. Like, between reverb automation, which I just figured out, you know, a month or half a year ago type thing. Like, all these little tiny tricks that you're like, oh, how does somebody do that? A lot of friends or a lot of peers like that you might work with on a collab, or just sit in their room and like work with them, a lot of those things will just come out. I lived in a studio house with a friend that I thought and still believe is like one of my favorite producers that doesn't even do EDM anymore. And I sat and watched him work for about a week in this studio house that I slept in North Hollywood somewhere. And just watching him work, like, I was like, oh my God, that's how you get that sound, or that's how you do this, and that's how you create something that I've been trying to figure out but would never be able to type into Google or YouTube. And that's the sound that I need to figure out. I think, like, I remember watching Wiz Khalifa come up off of Twitter and being like, you know, he just dominated Twitter when he was first coming up, or at least that's what I saw, before Twitter was even popular for anybody in Winnipeg, at least. I still don't know that many friends that use Twitter. They always use Facebook or Instagram. But I realized that, like, okay, Wiz Khalifa is using Twitter, and he's using it like really, really well. He's getting good engagement, and it's helping his career grow because he's just constantly doing something with it, and people resonate with it. And I knew that Twitter wasn't going to be my main platform, but I started realizing, well, maybe something else. Maybe it'd be AudioMac, maybe it'd be SoundCloud, maybe it's MySpace, which definitely wasn't MySpace. It was SoundCloud. And I just started investigating, like, over the years of putting out music and just throwing it up on SoundCloud, seeing what would happen. Eventually, plays started happening without any type of push. There was, like, no blogs at the start. There was nothing really big. It was just me getting my music out there to the internet. And eventually, as I started working on it more, I started realizing that the charts, which I feel like a lot of people don't know exist on SoundCloud, there's like a new and hot chart, and there's a top 50. And as I started working with those more, I started learning how to manipulate them a little bit in my favor so that it would help the song stay on these charts more. And if it was on the charts longer, the longer it stayed, or the more plays it got, the longer it stayed. And the longer it stayed, the more people had a chance to hear it. And then once it fell off the charts, the residual plays just stopped happening. But it gave all of the songs more of a shot at the end of the day. If you guys haven't looked into it, definitely go try to find the charts on SoundCloud. Like, it's kind of an interesting thing. Like, the top 50 will have like the top 50 songs that are being played consistently forever. And it's just really, really cool to look into. But as I was learning about that and trying to figure out how to manipulate them, or how to get my songs to stay on the new and hot, or how to go from the new and hot to the top 50 chart of each genre, that was a big thing for me to figure out. And I think that maybe if SoundCloud's not the biggest platform anymore, and it might be Spotify, there might be different ways, the same way that were possible with SoundCloud, to find out through Spotify. Like, I feel like there's always a loophole that you can find if you dig hard enough, or you talk to people the same way as production. You can talk about branding or music or just general platforms, and from that you can find, you know, little things to help each other out. Whether it's like, it could be as simple as, oh, let's do a track together, and, you know, we'll both share fan bases and grow, or, you know, sharing a tiny little secret between production or through a platform or through something else that will also help you figure out something that you wouldn't have known alone. That kind of ties into the staying on the curve of what's next. I didn't mean like, oh yeah, we're all making mid-tempo now, but no offense to anything mid-tempo. I love mid-tempo. That was really savage. I'm sorry. Mid-tempo's great. I made a mid-tempo track. I remixed Auto Grime, and it's mid-tempo. So there's nothing wrong with any genre. I just meant more of staying on the curve of like, if you think SoundCloud isn't as popular as good, what can you do in a different platform? Or maybe do you ride or die SoundCloud? Maybe you switch to Spotify. Maybe Spotify's gone in the next hour, we don't know. And then it's move on to Apple Music. There's different avenues that we can all explore, but it's about finding the one that you think will help you the most and diving into it. At least that's how I see it.